your question, which I haven't forgotten, emotion and trading. I mean, it's still true, actually. I mean, even yesterday, I was rebalancing my portfolio, and I actually made a mistake. So a couple of days ago, I bought too much of a particular fund, and I was still, because it's just after the end of the UK tax year, so I have to do a bit more rebalancing than normal. And I went and looked at that. I bought too much of this. I really ought to sell this down, and then put it into the fund it was supposed to go in to begin with. And I got some other stuff to do as well, so it wasn't like correcting one mistake. And I looked at that, and the price of the ETF had dropped by like 2 cents. For a loss that, as a percentage of my net worth, is insignificant. Could I pull the trigger? Could I take that few £100 loss, which also actually in a way is a good thing because it was in a taxable account, so it was a tax loss, so actually it wasn't all that bad. And I was actually like, and it was about half an hour of me sitting there going, maybe it'll go up, maybe it'll just go up a little bit and I'll be able to close it. And after half an hour, I thought, this is what the, I kind of got a copy of one of my own books and I beat myself over the head with it until I was sensible, pulled the trigger, closed the trade, took the tiny loss, did the rebalance correctly. But so yeah, even I, after all these years, still, the emotion's still there. It's very hard to get rid of.
I thought your forehead looked a little flatter today.
Yeah.
Pulling on that thread
it's
a
the
bit
Kahneman
more.
thread. Go ahead.
Pulling on that thread just one more time. I know there's a chapter in your book where you talk about having thought systematically about purchasing stocks when you're in a panic, and you talk specifically about 08. I would love to hear that story again. And share it with the audience. And then the follow-up to that is, how'd you do in the COVID crisis?
So the story is basically that it was actually Q109, and it felt to me like we were at the bottom of, we were at the bottom. And I thought, well, where is the best place to put my money? In the UK, banking shares, because they've been just massively beaten down, as you would expect in a debt and leverage crisis, of course. And I Barclays, and also I understand banks as a business and I can read the balance sheets and stuff. Whereas if you were to ask me to do that with an insurance company, I would struggle. So I thought, well, I'll buy shares in a few banks. The biggest share would have been in Barclays because I felt that was in the best position. And as it turned out, they raised money privately rather from the government. So that would subsequently was obviously the case. So the point to make here is, yeah, it was a discretionary trading decision, but actually it was a good one. The problem is that when it actually came to pulling the trigger, I panicked. And my timing was perfect. I probably was within like 3% of the bottom, something like that. And I bought the moment some really, really bad GDP numbers had come out in the UK, just astonishingly bad GDP numbers. And the market tanked as a whole, the banking shares sold off. I thought, well, this is not new news. This doesn't change my thesis. I should go ahead and buy these things. And I just could not force myself to buy in the size of trade that I'd originally intended to trade. And I just cut everything in by 90%, and I bought 1/10 of the position I intended to take. And yeah, those shares probably went up by something like 350% in 6 months. So the reason I include that in my book is to show that even if you make good trading decisions, and I'm by any means am I someone who makes those kinds of decisions all the time. Absolutely not. You still need some kind of system in place to manage your risk and manage your position size. It doesn't matter who, if you're some kind of genius trader, I still believe that is where you should use systems. I still believe most people probably should use systems for everything, including deciding when to buy and sell. But if you do think you can make those discretionary calls, you should still have a system in place to size them.